Good morning, Bears. What is happening? Looks like we got Andrew Kelly and Ginger Monkey Bear up in here on this fine Tuesday, December 11th, 2018. So good to see Bears today. And now, you can see me. What is happening, everybody? Glamping's here. That's so good. So, welcome, Ginger Monkey, and welcome to Mod Life as well. We had to get you squared away. Oh, very cool. Thank you. Always grateful for another subscriber. That's very cool. So, give me one moment here. I do all this stuff manually, of course. Oh, well, that's not what I wanted to do. But that's okay. I often do things that I don't want to do on this here chat, on this YouTube channel. Good morning. It is cold still. I'm here in central Illinois, for those that don't know. You may notice the internet being a little screwy. That's possibly going to happen. If I'm spiraling, if I'm doing the circle thing, just let me know. Type a chat, something. Yeah, I appreciate it, Ginger Monkey. Absolutely. Yeah, it's my data rate's all over the place, telling me that it's good and then it's horrible. So I don't know what's actually happening, what you guys are seeing on your end, but I can't imagine it's great. Oh, you're in Illinois too, huh? Way cool. I'm up here in Peoria, or near, well, close enough as it would be. So very cool. It's always good to have more Illini Bears out there. That's awesome. So let's see here. It's a little kale and blueberry smoothie I'm rocking. Honky's up in here. What is up? Kick is here. Kill is here. Controversy. Good to see you. Let's see here. Who all is in here? I'm curious. It was just Andrew Kelly and Ginger Monkey, and then Glamping came in, and then Kick Ya, and of course Honky and Controversy and Fella de Say. Nice. We got a lot of people who are actually doing jobs, and then they'll casually watch as they're able. Colton Claybrook is here. Welcome. Glad to have you. Glamping says she's been researching her Illinois ancestry this week. That's awesome. No, have no fear, Bear. There are no non-mods in here. Including yourself, so welcome. Oh, she's had Controversy Bear for a while, Honky. She's been that for quite a bit, so that's not new. Let's see here. Let's see now. So, yeah, it's been an interesting morning already, but in order for that morning to be more interesting, I should tell you a little bit about last night. So last night I went out. I did the dog walking that I do. My wife, for those of you that don't know, has a dog walking business, and I took over a lot of the dog walks for her because she got a gig working for an optometrist here in the area and doing that kind of gig full time. So she's doing her deal, and I am walking the dogs. So I'm shaking up my smoothie here. Excuse me. She has quite a few customers on a daily basis. So I'm taking care of those. And I walked about, let's see now. Oh, how many dogs did I walk yesterday? 2, 4, 7. Yeah, 7 dogs that I walked yesterday. And then I went and took a 2-mile run at one of the nearby parks. And then I had my lessons to teach. So I had 3 lessons last night. And my lessons were really focused on encouraging the students to actually engage with their instrument, to actually practice it, and find ways to have fun practicing it. It's been interesting. Yeah, I'm the believe all women when they say more dogs. That's me. You're right. I have no fear, bear. That's where you might recognize me from. In fact, some of those dogs might wander in from time to time. So that does happen on this show. But let's see here. So, yeah, the main focus on yesterday's teaching was all about getting these students to actually engage with their instrument, to actually practice to some degree. I had a trombone student, a piano student, and a drum student. I had all three. And all of them I've given certain goals in terms of practicing. And they all have reasons why they haven't accomplished those goals. And I've been trying to help change the mindset, change the thinking around to accomplishing those goals. How can they see those goals accomplished? And it's funny coming from me because I'm one of the chief offenders. I've been one of the chief offenders in that whole department for much of my life. However, having had that trouble, it's allowed me to analyze a little bit better in my older years here and say, what could I have been doing different? What can I do different now in order to get better? Yeah, the top is getting a little congealed, so I have to keep it shaken up. I'm going to gross you guys out a little bit. There's blueberries and kale and milk, of course, in here. I added just a couple tablespoons of peanut butter for some, sugar and other protein. But it's pretty good, actually. It's better than it was yesterday. Yesterday, all I did was milk and then a little bit of blueberries, a little bit of kale, and like 4 or 5 ice cubes in there to froth it up. But excuse me, this is better. I've had this throat business for a couple weeks. That's been bugging me. Kale, what am I, mental? Well, at least it's not soy, right? I mean, it could be worse, right? But that's the only greens we had, so I went with that. The snort fest commenced. Excuse me. I don't have like a cough button. I don't have a setup that's that cool. So you're going to have to put up with this a little bit. I hope you will. It's one step up from the soy. Yeah, I would agree. It's, hey, I'm getting something that's a little bit lower calorie and probably going to help me lose some weight. It's supposed to be a superfood or some junk like that. I don't know. But, yeah, at least it doesn't have a bunch of estrogen in it. That's all I know. So, at any rate, I'm teaching these students, all right? Almost hurled in your car with snort and stereo. Oh, my goodness. My dear bears that come in and interact and chat, they make this all the worthwhile that it is. It's so much fun. I could do spinach. I just don't have any. The kale isn't so bad. The kale really isn't that bad. It's like shredded, and it's I guess it's been washed, so it's not terrible. No kidding. I do eat meat. That's happening. But for breakfast, I went with the smoothie thing because I gotta shrink that waist a little bit. Gotta do something. But the meat's coming. I'll probably have that for dinner. Meat man. So anyway, I'm going to continue on with this story. One way or another, I'm going to get through this. That's most of these shows for the new folks. It's me just trying to not be squirreled by the rest of the bears and actually get through what I came to discuss today. Let's see here. So, teaching these students, I'm trying to get them to engage, to practice, to get into what they're doing, because unless they put some time in, right, they're not going to advance. Like, we're not going to be able to cover new subjects as easily if they don't have any kind of grasp of what they're doing. If they don't mess with their instrument at times other than when we get together. It's just going to take a really long time. And there's an old adage about becoming a master musician, having a mastery over your instrument. And the thought is that if you put in an average of about 10,000 hours, you can achieve a level of mastery in whatever your instrument happens to be. Now, if you were to only practice an hour a day, that would take you, about 27 and a half years, 27.4 years. It's pretty intense, long time. But if you practiced more than that, and you did different kinds of practice, right? Not just focus on actual, on the instrument. You broke it up into different areas that you're practicing, and you find ways to make it, how would I say, engaging, right? And multifaceted, right? You don't want to just do one physical exercise and that's all you're working on. I'm going to give you an example of what I'm teaching one of my students, my drum student. Drums is my main thing, for those that didn't guess that already. So I have a bit of a passion there, but I can get the fundamentals on, some other instruments, especially the rhythm stuff. But I give my student this exercise that I was taught when I was a kid, and it focuses on 16th notes. And you just play a measure's worth of 16th notes, 1 E-enda, 2 E-enda, 3 E-enda, 4 E-enda, right? Then you play a measure of 16th notes with the second of each group of 4 taken out. So, no, I'm sorry, it's the fourth. You take out the fourth of the 16th notes, the When we count 16th notes in percussive terminology, we say, any musical terminology for rhythm, we usually count it out as 1 E-enda, 2 E-enda. You're taking the bass quarter note, right? Because a measure of music is just a small section of a larger piece. You're taking one measure of the music, which is usually 4 quarter notes, right? You have 4 quarter notes to equal one measure. Well, those quarter notes can then be broken down into smaller subdivisions. And 16th notes will fit into a measure of, we call 4 4-time or 4 quarter notes to a measure. And the quarter note is what is being given the beat. So we're working on these 16th notes, and we count them 1 E-enda, 2 E-enda, 3 E-enda, 4 E-enda, right? So we're going to take out the for this exercise, this second part of it. So we go 1 E-end, 2 E-end, 3 E-end, 4 E-end. Then we go back to the regular 16th notes. 1 E-enda, 2 E-enda, 3 E-enda, 4 E-enda. And there's no gaps in between these. It's all consistent, right? Then we come up to the next section. It's 1 enda, 2 enda, 3 enda, 4 enda. One moment here, I'm getting an important informational note here. Okay, that's important, but I'll respond to that later. It's not that important. It's Beautiful Lady Bear is just giving me information about the dogs. But for those that don't know, Beautiful Lady Bear is my beautiful lady bear. So, Lip Snake's here. That's a good thing. And Tommy Lee, what is up, man? I love it. Yeah, so I'm just talking about something I've talked about before. Boulder's up in here. That's the good stuff, man. I love it. All right. So, 16th notes, right? I'm teaching this kid 16th notes. This is the exercise I wanted him to work on. 1 E-enda, 2 E-enda, 3 E-enda, 4 E-enda, 1 E-end, 2 E-end, 3 E-end, 4 E-end, 1 E-enda, 2 E-enda, 3 E-enda, 4 E-enda, 1 enda, 2 enda, 3 enda, 4 enda, 1 E-enda, 2 E-enda, 3 E-enda, 4 E-enda, 1 E, a 2 E, a 3 E, a 4 E, a 1 E-enda, 2 E-enda, 3 E-enda, 4 E-enda, 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 1 E-enda, 2 E-enda, 3 E-enda, 4 E-enda, 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 1. And that's the exercise. That's it. So in the first, offshoot, you're taking out the from each group of 16ths. Then you're taking out the E. Then you'll take out the and then you'll take out the downbeat, the 1 or the 2 or the 3 or the 4. That whining, by the way, would be chunk. Or is it Gita? No, that's totally chunk. That's totally chunk whining. He'll probably come up here in a minute. I only have a little bit of time, so... Chunk, there's a Chinaman watching. He sells beers. It shows. He's a cool dude. There's people that have shirts of you, bud. For those that don't know, I have previously made a t-shirt that says love Chunk or you're a commie. Because Chunk is an awesome dog, and that's kind of what I do. I still have a sample one here for you to see. This is probably going to be released again in the future, or at least in sticker form or something. But for those that don't know, that's what's up. Hey, bye, Killy. Good to see you. Glad you could pop in. So I try to work with my students to get them to understand the importance of practicing. And this exercise I just did, it's not just physically practicing 16th notes, like where you're going back and forth, you know, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left. You're not just doing that, right? You're not just getting the physical aspect of growth into your practice. You need to keep track of what you're doing, right? There's these changes that happen, and you need to know what the changes are. At first, you're not going to think about it as much, but little by little, you want to be able to think about them so that you can make that second nature to you, right? Like it's instinctive. You just automatically do it. And when you practice improving your mental side at the same time, you're making your practice multifaceted. When those things become ingrained, then you can save all that cognitive space in your mind to think about other things like what is going on otherwise in this musical situation. What should my volume be, right? How intense should I be playing this? On what instrument should I be playing it on? Should I be playing it on a cymbal or on a particular drum? Whatever you're working with, right? I've got this chunk music in the background. Boy, he is excited to see me. Did you want to come on the show? Is that what you wanted? Hang on. He's got to come in now. It's got to happen. Oh, did you let your sister out? Good job. Okay, one at a time. One at a time. You stay. Come on, chunk. One at a time. You'll be next. You'll be next. You can come sit. Come here. Come here. Here, climb up in my lap. Come on, bud. Come on. Up. Can you climb up? Oh, I gotta grab you. No, be nice. Oh, chunk. He's here. He arrived. We got some chunk action today. Yep, he's a beast. Oh, he growls when you pick him up too. He's sort of like, oh, this isn't fun. Did you let him know, Chunk? Did you tell him? He's a good boy. He does this like reaching his neck to the sky when you're petting on him. It's so funny. Oh my goodness. So what I taught these kids, what I was trying to get these kids to understand is there's multiple things that you're doing all within the practice of just one little exercise. So your goal is to get, say, whatever it is I give you, be it that or what I gave my piano student, what I gave to the trombonist, any of those folks. Your goal is to get it done a certain number of times consistently, right? You want to be able to play consistently and keep that up because your body will learn, your muscle memory is going to increase. Your body will learn to do this better every day that you do it. And you're going to start noticing things about your technique that you can begin to improve. You'll notice the way that your hand is moving. You're like, oh, that's not quite how it should move, right? I need to affect it differently. And I need to be making sure that I use good form, good technique to make that automatic every time. You'll start to notice that your timing will get better if you pay attention to it. You're like, oh, I've been a little too fast. Like I've been rushing against my metronome to where the tempo should be. Let me try to slow it back down to where it ought to be. Keep that tempo nice and solid. All of these things you can pay attention to, but only if you have some consistency and longevity at practicing a particular exercise, working through it. So I gave him some very basic, simple ones to do every day. And that student didn't know, well, all my students had trouble accomplishing the exercises that I had given to any of them, right? For any length of time. And so my whole goal was to speak words of life to them, to encourage them, saying, you can do this. You are fully capable of doing it, and you will enjoy doing it the more you actually do it, right? The more you go in and do successful, good practice, the more you're going to be like, that feels good. I want to do more of it, right? Now you're going to have like this, how would I say, dopamine kind of incentive, right? Because you get a dopamine hit when you do something good, right? And you're successful at it. But you've got to do it consistently. You've got to do it a bunch to build that up and build a a desire to come back and do more. And you're going to get creative with it. You're going to have new ideas about how you could practice what I've given you and get better at it in a bazillion different ways. So I had to use particular language in order to draw them into a desire to practice more. And I'll continue to have to do that. Like, it's not a one and done process. It's a continual thing that I keep on working with, trying to break through to them and demonstrate to them this is where it's at. And some kids, they naturally gravitate toward it. Some other kids, they've got a lot going on in their lives these days. So it's a little harder than it was, say, 20, 30 years ago. But, it's so essential that they establish that desire to dig into their instruments and make music, right? Because they're just going to be able to make more. They're going to enjoy it more. So sometimes I would give them a little video clip to check out or some music to play along with. Like one of the students, I said, I want you to use like Peter Gabriel's Sledgehammer, and make that your metronome sometimes to play along with music for this. And like, that's the exact same thing I did. My drum teachers put that on and we played to that for a couple of hours straight, playing on giant, I think I talked about this before. We were using like giant 1x6s. It was really like 1x8s. They're big wide boards. They're probably like 8 or 10 feet long, and they had 3 or 4 of us standing at each board, and it was laid flat in front of us, put up on top of music stands, like sheet music stands. So we would sit there with our big honking marching snare drum sticks and just play the same exercises, maybe 2 or 3 different ones for 2 hours straight. And that's a workout. That will build your endurance. I mean, we had a couple of breaks in there here and there, but my goodness, whooped us. And we kept on having the opportunity to see what we needed to do in order to make it better, make our playing better. So that was my experience, trying to find words that ignited a fire, ignited life inside these guys. Because light is a really important thing to shed on different things. When you speak about certain things, you illuminate that subject to the student. You try to get them aware of different things. They can't see it if it hasn't entered into their mind yet. So you're sort of mentally shedding light on different stuff in order for them to see it and, realize that's a place to walk toward, right? Now that I see that location in the distance there mentally, I can begin to walk toward it in my behavior, right? And have that principle ingrained in me, right? Have that, whatever it is that I desire, that greater command of my instrument, that greater appreciation and interest in music grown in me that I wouldn't have seen a value in until you illuminated it to me. So I saw some interesting examples this morning. Oh, good boy, Chunk. He just did the ear flapping thing. It's pretty funny. I saw some interesting examples today of people using words and in different ways. Some were for shedding light, some were not. I thought it were kind of funny. So I woke up and I saw a quick Mark Dice video this morning. Good old Mark Dice. If you don't subscribe, he's a hilarious dude. His style is just quirky and funny, but he'll do clips of different stuff going on in the news, and he loves to slam on far leftists a lot. It's his deal. He's a pretty silly dude, but he was showing something. He says breaking news, that got your attention, and he was mocking. Of course, it was like something CNN was saying that some Russian spy had been captured or whatever and was cooperating with investigators. Turned out this has absolutely nothing to do with the Mueller investigations or anything. It's completely separate from that. And it turns out it's like a simple low-level spy because I guess governments are doing that to us and we to them all the time. Israel probably has spies in our country at various times. Different government agencies watch what other government agencies are doing. Like not within the same country, you know what I'm saying? So it was more nothing news, but it was it was just funny, like using the term breaking news, completely ridiculously. You're making a mockery with the words. You're not having any real Well, those words are supposed to serve a certain function, and you're not using them for that purpose, right? And so the more you do that, the less people are going to trust you. You keep on putting the light on and saying, "Hey, the British are coming, or the Russians are coming," whatever you want to say, right? No one's going to believe you if it's your Paul Revere crying wolf, right? Kind of thing. It's not going to work. So it's so important if you're going to use words that are a beacon, right? That's so funny, Boulder. You're absolutely right. He's up to 6 million? I didn't even realize. That's awesome. That's so fantastic, dude. It's funny, dude. You play Boy Who Cried Wolf with words that are meant to really draw and engage people. They're not going to believe you. It's not going to work out well for you, right? And it's not even good for those people, because now they don't know who to trust, right? Breaking wind. That's funny, Honky. Man. Good morning, Steve. Steve's just dropped in here. So here's the deal. So I saw another bit on local news here. I guess there's a man out in Vermont, I think they said, who owns like a recycling plant business that he'd started up some time ago. Well, I guess he wanted to move that business to he wanted to move that business to his own private property that was zoned for commercial use, right? Like he had it set up, this was going to work, but I guess for some reason or another, his city council said no. Like they weren't going to work with him on that. They weren't going to do it. And it was just, I don't know if somebody else was going to make more money if it was where it was. And I don't know. It was a messed up deal. So he's into wood carving and things like that too. He carved a large sized hand flipping the bird, right? This big old wooden hand flipping the bird, probably like 5-6 feet tall. I don't know. But he put it on this 19-foot tall stand or something like this, 16-foot tall. I think they said, not 19, a 16-foot tall stand out in his yard. And it's got lights illuminating it so you can see it clearly at nighttime, all this kind of stuff. So plenty of people drive by and see this giant fist flipping the bird as they walk down by. And I guess some of the locals know about the deal. So it's like, people are like, all right, good for him. It's like he's kind of putting the word out. Like, this is his way to let them know, this is what I think of your bull jive, you know, like getting your bureaucracy to mess with my private business, trying to do what's best for the business and the people who work for it. Thanks a lot. So I don't know all the details in that story, but it was sure funny. And it was another great example of using, in that case, not words, but it is a symbol for a word, right? It's in a way, it's a written word, written in wood, right? It's a symbol. So, and he illuminates it in the middle of the night. It's certainly a way to communicate his message. Like, I'm not going to go down, you know, quietly with all this kind of stuff. You know, you're going to try to pull off bull jive. That's fine. I'm going to let you know. But I just thought that was kind of amusing. It's not directly connected to what I'm talking about today, but it's loosely connected in a way. It's that sometimes it's necessary to use your language to really make a lasting point, right? And even if it doesn't make a point to the people that you're communicating to, it might make a point to those that are paying attention, right? Anybody that happens to notice, right? So a big lesson that I was teaching last night is that what we think, say, and do, all of it, impacts those around us. And I would suggest to you, has an impact on the very fabric of the world that we live in, like the air, the water, the soil, all of it, I think is impacted by what we think, say, and do. I think that has an effect in some possibly measurable way. Not that we've spent a lot of money and effort in trying to measure that sort of thing, but maybe we have in certain areas. But I would say it goes down to the subatomic level and impacts our very world. More smoothie. Sorry, guys. So consider that today as you're going out and about. Everything that you think, say, and do can either bring life to somebody, right, and encourage them to become better at what they're going through in life, what their focus is, what their main goals are. It can be a boy who cried wolf. Chunk, come here, bud. He's trying to wander over to the cat litter box, and dogs have this innate interest. Hang on one second. Chunk. No. Come on, bud. Here, you should go this way. Here you go. Go that way. You don't need to get into the litter box. That's not for you. I don't understand what dogs and litter boxes. I don't get this. Oh, it's not a good thing. Oh, I have to work quickly to keep him back. So, your words can either lift somebody up and encourage them and push them on to greater heights of whatever they're going to do in life, or they can get people to not trust you. Right? You can use important words in a way that's disingenuous, and you're gonna disrupt. You're going to corrupt communication between you and others. And you may corrupt their own ability to receive communication from other people, right? So it can also be an opportunity to just sort of say your piece and let people know you're not going to be bullied. You're not going to be pushed around, right? It can be a way to stick it to those that would, I guess, make your life difficult, and the life difficult for others. And maybe they'll be less apt to as easily push around other people, you know? Oh my goodness. Yeah. I think it just makes me think about some of those things that we maybe take for granted. We just talk. We just do what we do. I get on here and I just talk every day. But the more I do it, the more I think it's kind of important to really say things that are useful, say things that are true, say things that are important. And, take that big bear attitude. I may be wrong, but I'm not lying. The other day, I briefly, brought up some Petersonian things, and I'm not going to go into it today. I'd like to take a day where I go into some Petersonian things and reasons why I would have to largely agree with a lot of Big Bear's assessments on that thus far, and what I don't know about all that business yet either. But yeah, I don't look up to Peterson as a father figure, right? I had a pretty good relationship with my dad in a lot of ways. Still do. But, I felt kind of like hurt because I was sharing it with my kids. And then now I have reason to question, right? Now I have reason to be unsure. And yes, kick ya, I can already hear it. I know not everything is a conspiracy, and that's not what I'm suggesting. But I'm just teasing you. It is worthwhile to look at a person's character, to look at their actions, to look at the whole of it. Look at the things that they value. And if the things that they value and the things that they say are sometimes incongruous, that has to make you have pause, And I don't know. It was interesting to me, to dig into some of that. Another time I'll broach that more deeply, but I'm thinking not about him specifically, but about people that engage in behavior like that, right? Where you try to get people rallied up for a purpose that's false, right? Or you get them thinking that you're all about one thing, but maybe your motivations are different. I definitely felt that way about George H.W., who recently passed away. Like, I had thought easily 10, 15 years back that guy was probably embroiled in all kinds of things that were not savory, and so it was really cool that they had that funeral done the way they did. But at the same time, like, I wasn't able to enjoy any of it. You know what I mean? Kind of goes back to the disillusionment thing I was talking about yesterday. I listened to that whole funeral, and I'm listening to Michael W. Smith singing for that. And I heard a lot of people that I thought were very genuine and heartfelt folks. But I really wonder if he wasn't embroiled in a lot of stuff that was really disturbing. And I'm like, there's just that level of doubt there. Like, there's enough incongruousness between his behaviors and things that he's said that lead me to believe that some of the things that have been said about him might be true. Some of the less savory things that have been said about him might be true. And it doesn't seem like shocking to me that that would be the case. I don't know. There's a lot of reason to question a lot of folks out there. There's probably reason to question me at times, you know, probably enough of it. And I think about that, you know, when I see big public figures that are, in my mind now, questionable. And I think about my own self. What kind of impact, or how does that damage my impact? I know, right? I'm total heretic. Steve, you're cracking me up. I think about that. Like, I've not always been the most truthful person by any means. I've lied to try and save my own butt in times past, plenty. And I'm ashamed of that kind of stuff, you know, stupid kid lies or stupid young adult lies, whatever you want to call it. Lies, you know, not always being upfront. And I really despise that now, right? I despise that aspect of my personality now when I've had that. And I want to like expunge it like there's no tomorrow. Like, I'm vehemently against it. Doesn't mean I'm perfect at it. Doesn't mean I won't feel tempted to do that at times. But I really, really, really have a higher value than in my life nowadays, you know, in the last several years, than I did when I was a younger guy in honesty, in truthfulness. You know, I was raised around that kind of thing, and yet I struggle with it personally a lot. And I think to myself, how important is it for me to really make that fully integrated into my life at every opportunity, right? And if like I told one of my students last night, if you're playing these exercises and you're working through trying to play 10 repetitions of a certain exercise and repeat that 4 times a day, whatever the recipe was that I gave him for practice, let's say you miss one day or you mess up and somehow don't get the full set of repetitions. Don't let that spoil it for you. Get back on the horse the next day, right? Don't think, oh, I got to wait for the next week to start fresh. No. This is just like brushing your teeth, right? You miss a brushing of teeth. Go and do it the next day, right? Go get it. Go right away and pick back up on it, right? Like, your practice abilities are rotting away, just like your teeth will the longer you don't clean them. Don't wait for next week to get it, a full week of brushing your teeth. Like, no, this is not what we want to do. So if you have a mistake in your character where you fall down and you start to tell something that's untrue, you even have an action that's seemingly untrue, open up about it, say so, you know, and try to set it right where you can. I've had plenty of opportunities to fail on that, you know, but I've got plenty of opportunities to get it right too, and try to get more getting it right as I move forward, because the long-term consequences for myself and others are being revealed to me to be far more deep than I had any idea of. So I want to minimize all of that going forward. I want to have higher value, higher fear behind. Yeah, I want to have some degree of fear behind not valuing honesty. And otherwise, my whole impact that I have with people is diminished and damaged. People that could be lifted up and encouraged could then be not nearly so if they can't trust what I'm saying, if that's called into question constantly, right? So, I don't know. It's just something I've been thinking about. And I saw some correlation between yesterday and today and how those things are related. But your words have an impact. Your words can illuminate things to people. They are a light. Or they can darken it. You know, it's entirely possible either way. They can just burn it down, burn stuff down for people. What do you want your words to do? Just a thought, guys. And I hope you make it a good thought. I hope you do good things with it. Some of you got to go. I got to go. I got dogs to walk. But Bears, I love you all. And I'm glad somebody came out today to see the show. I'll be back tomorrow. Same bat time-ish. All right, Bears. Engage your mind, engage your body, and engage your heart. Seek to serve the ultimate purpose. Peace, Bears. That's one way you can get that practice in. Pick different instruments. Make it fun. Make it interesting. Right? Right? Oh, and by the way, Felidise, I think you asked me a question earlier about scales. What's another way you could practice your scales and make it interesting? I think I saw it, but I didn't get to it. I meant to. So, just as an addendum here, I'm looking for your actual question in the chat right now, just to see if I could make sure I answer it specifically. But I believe that was the gist of your drift. So what would I say to you? Yeah, there it is. I'm having trouble finding a fun way to learn scales on guitar. Do you have any ideas to make it less of a chore? Excuse me. Well, one of the things you could do with that is play your scale. Well, first what I would say is physically write them out by letter name, right? You want to take your 15 major scales and write them out by letter name. And in fact, if we're curious about that, maybe I'll go into that tomorrow. I'll try to give, I'm thinking now, maybe I'll do that in the show tomorrow. I'll just go through like how I get people to practice their scales. And then once you've got them, you just got to go through, you write, say, and play, right? Make sure you know the pattern of scales. Once you know the pattern, you know your scales. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's one simple pattern for your majors. And then the minors, it's just a slight change to get that. And there are 3 different kinds of minor scales. But really, what are we usually messing with? The harmonic minor and the major scales. That's the majority of what we're going to do, right? We don't usually use the natural minor. So, or we don't usually use the melodic minor either. You know, so knowing the basic major scale pattern and getting that and writing out your 15 basic major scales that we tend to use in Western music, that's going to be the most important thing for you to know. And then just write it, say it, and play it as much as you can. And just say, I'm going to make it. One thing that I do is to get students to see it as a goal, as a game, right? Like, how can I do this every day? Like, write them out. And then we're going to play a game at some point where we'll say, how quickly can you write out, just letter name, the 15 major scales, right? How long does it take you? I'm down to about 2.5 minutes. Sometimes I can get it in right at about 2. But my first try was about 9 or 10 minutes, and I still wasn't done yet. So you can get that too, where it's ingrained in you. It's just instinctive. You don't even have to think. You just know that you know your major scales. So once you have that, you'll have a library of chords that you can draw out of those scales of over 200 chords. All of that's all connected together. So try to make it a game for yourself. Find games that you can play. Make flashcards, right? Write the names of all 15 of your basic major scales, all note names, on flashcards, and try to figure out what scale is this from, or what scales is this note from, and what scale degrees, which scale degree would it be, like in the C major scale, for example, C, D, E, F, G, A, B. That's your C major scale. So C is 1, D is 2, E is 3, F 4, G is 5, A is 6, and B is 7. Scale degrees that I'm saying right now, right? So if you mark it down that on one side of it, it's C major scale, and then on the other side, it's whatever note from that scale, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, right? I just repeated the first scale degree over again unnecessarily, but you get the idea. If you write the 7 scale degrees on the back side of these flashcards, and on the front side of it, you write C major scale, you just know that all 7 of those cards that say C major scale on the back are notes from the C major scale. And then you've got to go know what scale degree each one is, right? You can even have it written underneath somewhere there, somewhere in a corner. I don't know. But they are staring at a black screen. I know this is just the giant voice. Don't what's the phrase? Pay no attention to the man behind the black screen. The great and powerful big drum bear is speaking. So does this make it easier? Is this helpful? I can do this, you know, if it's more helpful, but so yeah, essentially that's all I'm telling you is make it a game. Make it flashcards or make it into a board game. I had some students at one point create like Candyland, but with scales or note values and all that kind of stuff. Make a musical board game. So that means you have to have all your information, all your data. I'll just go over the major scale patterns again tomorrow and talk about ways that you can make it fun. That's just gonna have to be what it is. Morning, Bisky. Yeah, it's gone, but I'm gone too because this is the end of the show. All right. I hope that somewhat answers your question. I love you, Bears. I really have to go walk dogs now. Peace to you guys.